Good afternoon. I'm Dennis Galucki. Welcome to the 536th Imagine Greater Buffalo program, as well as our 158th YouTube program, hosted by our wonderful Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. Thanks for joining us today. This program is created by the Center for the Study of Art, Architecture, History, and Nature, or C-SAAHN, as I like to pronounce the acronym, and ImagineLifelongLearning.com. Before we get started, let's do a little housekeeping. Everyone watching will be muted and your video turned off. If you have a question or a comment, please type it into the chat box and we'll go through them at the end of the presentation. We are recording this program so you can watch it again later on the Downtown Central Library's Facebook page and their YouTube channel. And please, we hope you share the link with others. Now, on to our featured speaker. Bernice Radle recently celebrated her first anniversary as Executive Director of Preservation Buffalo Niagara. She has over 10 years of work and activism in the Buffalo area, including with Buffalo Love Development and Little Wheel Restoration Society. She is the Vice Chair of the City of Buffalo Zoning Board of Appeals and a faculty member of the Incremental Development Alliance. She also was the host of American Rehab Buffalo on the DIY network. She has a bachelor's degree in urban planning and regional analysis from Buffalo State University. In her position, she works with Preservation Buffalo Niagara's board and staff to advance historic preservation in Buffalo and Niagara Falls using her firsthand restoration experience and knowledge of historic buildings to assist others in their restoration journey. Well, I've been looking forward to this. Now let's hear from Bernice Radle. Bernice, take it away.
Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate you inviting me to come. What an honor to be part of the group. And I also want to say thank you to everybody who is on this call. There's actually, I can see a lot of names, some that I recognize and others that I don't. So thank you so much for joining us on this short kind of lunchtime presentation today. And, you know, as Dennis said, I'm the new, it doesn't feel that new, but new preservation or executive director here at Preservation Buffalo Niagara. And I've spent many, many years restoring old homes in Buffalo before that, and every day learning a lot, you know, coming from the wonderful leadership from Jesse, who led this organization for 7 years, and learning a lot and just doing all that we can to keep Preservation Buffalo Niagara going and moving in the right direction. So, so today, actually, I wanted to, when Dennis asked what this topic would be, I really just wanted to say kind of what's going on with Preservation Buffalo Niagara. What, you know, a lot of people, they might read the e-newsletters or they see on Instagram or they see us on Facebook. They might get some highlights from what we're doing, but I think it's probably, I said it's important to really hear kind of just kind of a broad brush. What are the programs we're looking at? What are things that have changed, you know, in the last few years? And what are we kind of looking forward to and kind of marching, you know, out with kind of, because a lot of preservation has changed. PBN as an organization has changed. Preservation as a movement is continuing to shift. And there's a lot of just really cool, good work that we're doing. So I created a very short presentation, nothing wild. This is supposed to be light, with a few photos to kind of show what we're up to and what are the new programs that we're really trying to instill and create and build here at PBN. And just wanted to say a few housekeeping things. If you have any questions, you can always reach us at info@pbnsaves.org. You can check out preservationbuffaloniagara.org as well, our website. You can check us out on Instagram. You can check us out on Facebook. We're all there. And if there's any help or things that we can answer, questions we can provide, please, you know, we're here for you for historic buildings all in Niagara and in Erie County. So now let me pull my presentation up really quickly and just give me 1 second. Should be able to see my screen, and then we will do slideshow. Great. All right. So what you're looking at here is just a few photos. Oh, hold on. Not sure why it does that. All right. A few photos that we've collected over the last probably 6 to 8 months. And I wanted to take a step back. So when I started at Preservation Buffalo Niagara a year ago, we had some substantial turnover in staff. And so it's important to recognize that from an organizational perspective. So with Jessie, who's leading the charge at the Martin House now and doing a wonderful job at it, she's been very helpful in this transition. But we had several staff members leave at the time or in that time frame. And when I started just a year ago, we had to really basically staff up again. We had to hire a new preservation planner, a new lead preservationist, a new operations person. And we had some folks really, some of the other folks, of course, have stayed or were new right before Jessie left had just started. So our whole organization, I think the important thing to know is from a staff point of Preservation Buffalo Niagara, our organization is more new than we'd like to say out loud, but it's the truth. And that's important to say it because you're like, wait, what's going on? Or why haven't I seen this? Or if we have not returned a call or maybe something has been dropped, please reach out to us because it may just be in the transition got muddied. And I wanted to say that out loud, even though it's, I want to say everything's, oh, great, but it's important to tell the truth and say what's going on. So now we're fully staffed up again, almost fully staffed up. We're hiring a communications person right now. But what that means is we have a board who is awesome and super dedicated and really has done a fabulous job helping me. And then we have a team. And then the question is, what is PBN doing now? And what and what are we really looking forward to? So to make sure you all know, Preservation Buffalo Niagara, right in 2021 and 2022, wanted to revamp our strategic plan. Our strategic plan in the past was just, help save buildings in Western New York. And we were in 5 counties. Okay. So we were all over. And now the board combined with some, helpful decision makers, like leaders and the previous team, they said, this is too much. There's so many buildings that are, to be honest, you could have 45 people working here and it still probably wouldn't be enough. We all know that Buffalo, Western New York has seen declines and decay, frankly, in so many really great buildings. It takes a village to save a building. And so the whole board got together and said, what can we do? And then, so what happened was they actually revamped, right before I started, they revamped and passed a new strategic plan. So Preservation Buffalo Niagara's new strategic plan is to focus on Niagara and Erie County. It's specifically with the specific efforts called out to focus on the east side of Buffalo and Niagara Falls, New York, the center of Niagara Falls. You look at the map, Niagara Falls. And what is really good about that, it means, first of all, it doesn't mean that we're saying no to the Allentowns of the world or Elmwood Village. We're not alienating other people. It just means that some of our effort and focus and deeper focus has to be in the place where it is needed the most. That's where we are. We are a nonprofit, right? We're dedicated to helping people and helping save buildings and the communities within them, right? And so the shift went from, kind of whatever buildings that were kind of screaming at the time to now the east side and Niagara Falls. And what's been really good about that strategic plan is it's allowed us to focus. It's allowed us to go deeper. It's allowed us to, and of course there's a million things to do even within those neighborhoods, but it's allowed us to, frankly, it's allowed us sometimes to say no, and it's allowed us to kind of keep our heads down and know where we need to be. So with that said, in the last probably, I'd say 3 to 6 months, we've started to really, our team has now come together. And then the question is, now that we have this new strategic plan, what do we want it to look like? And what are the tools, the preservation tools that we, maybe tried in the past and want to build, or that we haven't done in the past that we really want to do. And so I wanted just to show a couple photos here, because I think the first slide that I have, first of all, here's a photo of myself and a few folks from our team that we were just at the preservation conference just last week, getting some training. And inspiration and meeting all the SHPO people and really getting to know a lot of people and the players in the state. That was good. But it's important, what this slide represents is sort of the advocacy side. So right now we've created a local landmark subcommittee. And so that local landmark subcommittee with a whole variety of people from all around Buffalo and Western New York are helping. It's a small committee. In fact, if anybody wants to help us do historic research on historic local landmarks, come find me. So, because we'd love to have more people, but we created a local landmark subcommittee. And what we're doing is we're trying to do local landmark initiatives and get them passed through the city. So, and so for example, we worked on the Allied Mills local landmark, which is still ongoing. If anybody knows Brian Bowman, give him a call for me because he's the keeper here at City. We have been working on the local landmark for the Vaux Barn. We have a public hearing meeting coming up next month about the Vaux Barn, which is designed by Calvert Vaux. It's beautiful. It's worthy of saving. It's super cool. But we're advocating still on this local landmark level. We have some other local landmarks in the works. Forest Lawn, a bunch of ones in Broadway Fillmore, St. Stan's, like a whole bunch. I mean, our list could go on for a very long time of buildings that local landmarks can be, we could do local landmark applications. And because of that, it helps save them hopefully from demolition. And that's really the key. So our local landmark subcommittee was created in the summer of last year, which the city council meeting photo in this is from one of those meetings. We then started to collaborate with the Central Terminal Association and the Triangle neighborhood. We're around Central Terminal, and the photo to the upper left is a photo of me presenting on some ideas for 2024 and 2025 based on the community-wide plan that they've created, how we can incorporate preservation through education, through stabilization, through all kinds of tactics. So we're starting to work more deeply within the community surrounding the Central Terminal. That's a very good neighborhood because just with all the work happening at the Central Terminal, we just want to make sure that it's not just the tower, but it's like the whole community all around it. One other things that we evaluated that we're bringing back is the tours. I don't want to just say blatantly tours. Of course, there's Explore Buffalo and all kinds of other organizations doing tours, but we're doing kind of deep dive tours where they're hard hat, where you may meet the owner of the building, and they'll talk about tax credits or how it was very difficult. We're doing some really good photography tours that are going to be announced later this summer, and all of that organized. By the way, tours and things like that is what pays our salary. That's like money into PBN, keeps us going, keeps the lights on, keeps our rent paid. So those things are so important. They seem like, why did they do that when they could be saving this building? Well, everything is like there's a balance sometimes where you have to bring money in so we can keep people paid. And it's all balance and money and grants and everything. And that's a whole other conversation for another day. But I just want you to know, we are bringing back these kind of deep photography tours and these kind of deeper owner one-on-one hard hat related exploratory preservation tour things. That's what it's hard to say. I always say, what do we call these things? So it's not really a tour, it's like a deep dive. So we're doing a lot of that, and you can see Brandon in the lower photo here from our staff, from our team. Brandon was and Emily are going to help do the Richardson tours later this summer for photography only. And, but overall, over the last 6 months or so, it's been getting our bearings, working on the local landmarks, getting our community meetings together. And if there's anyone or thoughts or people we haven't met with, please say something, call us, let us know. We're trying to be as open. I think it's important to say out loud that, there was, under the older leadership, there was 7 years of relationships, right? So we had to re-letter all the legislators and re-meet with all the council and, and do kind of this kind of reconnection, and so that has been really, really harder than I would say harder than I thought, so not in a bad way, just in a reality check way, right? Trying to organize meetings, get everybody together. But so the advocacy side we're working on, we have the turtle efforts, which I don't have a photo in here, just because I didn't include it on accident, but we were actively working on the turtle. We had 1,500 people sign a petition of support for the turtle local landmark in the city of Niagara Falls. It was packed house meetings that we attended, and it was denied. Actually, the turtle local landmark was denied just about a month ago, and now we're taking a step back and we're saying, okay, what else can we do? So the community is getting together. They want to create a nonprofit. PBN is also assisting with all kinds of things in that area, like advice and potentially some grant applications and things of that nature. So that even in Niagara Falls, we're trying to build that world and work on that. So that was like last year. And actually Dennis said, what do you want people to know? And I said, well, I want people to know that our strategic plan has changed. And I also want people to know that PBN has gone through transition. And I also, the third thing is what I want people to see is, what are we working on? What are we looking at? This is like the cool tools that some preservation organizations use around the country, or even locally we've experimented with things. What are we doing to build the preservation tools to save buildings on the east side and Niagara Falls and everywhere in between? So here's a few photos of buildings currently in my head, on my mind, things I meet with all the time, and our team meets with on these buildings. And there are several others. Okay, there's actually dozens and dozens and dozens, but I wanted to highlight them, basically focusing on different programs. So there's a building here in Allentown by a gentleman who I will not say, that's been vacant for a long time. In the past, actually, we've done one so this is what I want to highlight is receivership. In the past, receivership was something that Jesse tried and was very successful with a building on 40 Cottage, a little cute pink, basically 2 buildings on one lot. The board got together. Jesse said, we have to save this building. And through receivership, being a certified receiver, we were able to put a roof on the building through housing court. We gained access to that building. It became ours because they never paid the roof back. To be honest, they didn't pay we paid for the roof. They didn't pay us back. We got the property, right? It had been vacant for many, many, many years. And so what Jesse and the team did was say, okay, let's get this back out to the public. We want to unstick these buildings. These buildings are vacant. They just want to be unstuck. And so this idea of receivership was born. And now that building is partially renovated fully, and then the back building is being renovated right now. And so the question then became, when I started, how do we do more of that? And so we have now, just kind of an update from PBN. I took the receivership training myself. We have a certified receiver also on our team, that is Greg, and we are actively, we added a board member just late last year that works in real estate. And now we've established the real estate property committee within. So now we can do more receivership. And if you may feel like I'm going into too much detail perhaps, but I think it's important to say these things, because people ask, like, what is going on, or what's taking so well, or what's being told, or what's not being told. And this is just the reality. To get board members and to get a committee and to get receivership trade, all of those things matter and take time. So we are now ready to advocate and truly work on the receivership program, to the tune of we have our certified receivers, we've got our board in place, we have the committee, and we even have a fund in place now. So what's so exciting about it is we can advocate for that, and we are working on that. It is going to be slow to work, but I promise you, we are as active as working as we can. Of course, this takes political folks, it takes City Hall, it takes legal, it takes the judge, the housing court people, all of those people to come together. And I'm just trying to get one done, so one in process, so we can then feel it, understand it, and then work towards it. So I just want you all to know that that's happening. Receivership is happening, and if there's any resources or thoughts or things that you could provide to us, again, we're a nonprofit, please feel free, bring it on, send me an email. So we have that. Of course, people say, well, this building, could this be a receiver and this be a receiver? There's risk that we have to analyze in every project and every building. And of course, there's circumstances, everyone is different, but we now internally have the capacity, right, to be able to do that. And that's important. The building on the upper right hand is a building on Franklin that a lot of people have been highlighting. There are buildings like this all over the city. I just snapped this photo. It was on my phone when I was presenting. I just want to throw it on there. But the Franklin building is a really good example. People have said to me, let's do receivership. Instead, I met with the owner yesterday and I specifically walked him through and said, what's going on? And he's actually going through a tax credit process for this in another building. He's in process, right? So where are you stuck? So this is another thing that PBN can offer. And this is where my real estate world comes in. It's like, where are you stuck? How can we help? And so, you know, through just a coffee conversation, I realized that he's stuck on a little bit on financing, and this preservation is taking to do the tax credits is taking a little bit, which is understandable. And he's just needing resources. He's needing people around him, and he's just struggling. He's stuck. And so I said to him, okay, all right, I'm going to take a step back. Of course, we're going to keep an eye on it. It is in housing court. We one of the other efforts is we're really looking down. We're paying attention to housing court right now. And we have a full housing court list actually of like 60 plus properties or more. It really could be endless. But so what the point is, this is in housing court. Instead of just pointing fingers, we're trying to say, okay, how can we bring resources to the table? How can we help? Right? If we can't bring financial resources, we can, you know, maybe advise, maybe make connections, maybe give them encouragement, like this needs to be saved. And I can't guarantee that this building is actually going to be saved on record. I can't say, oh yeah, but my meeting yesterday was really positive. I felt like he was moving in the right direction. We gave him some examples of, or some connections on just the people to talk to in the community that might be able to provide other resources or time and commit, you know, things to him. So, you know, part of the things that PBN can do is, you know, take this kind of like, how do we unstick folks? And that's in fact, Dennis had mentioned before we were preparing for this, you know, there's calls coming in about churches and things of that nature. How do we help people unstick them and when they're in these situations? So that's an example. Now this owner actually has another property on the east side. We brought that up. That property, you know, is in a different situation, but also going through tax credits. I'm like, great, awesome. Maybe you need a sign so people don't like call me. I'm going through the tax credit process. I promise that should be your sign, you know. But anyway, so that's an example of some of the work. So housing court. So I talked about, you know, our receivership. This one kind of floats under housing court advocacy, which we are working on, and kind of helping unstick the, you know, projects. The photo on the lower left with the beautiful woman in a pink coat, that woman is Constance. She's our Eastside specialist, and she's an incredible human. And our Constance is leading the charge on another big tool that we're working on right now that we're building. And this has been multiple years in the making, but we are actively working on what's called our Eastside Stabilization Program. The Eastside Stabilization Program, when it was first started, and you know, Jesse like sowed the seeds and said, we need money, and you know, so great that she did that. And Empire State Development listened and came through with funds to help stabilize buildings on the east side. And we could give you, in fact, Constance, she'd be great to do a presentation at this. She could take hours of your time showing you the different buildings that we're working on and helping. This photo actually sits as a photo inside the Golden Cup. The Golden Cup's new building, which is on Jefferson Street, basically right across from the current Golden Cup. And our Eastside Stabilization Program, right now, we have about 20 projects in the queue, up to $150,000 per building. Some of them are even a little more, some of them are a little less, but it's roughly about $150,000 per building. And what we're doing is roof work, stabilization on floors, masonry, anything that relates to keeping the building going, to keeping it stable. And so this picture on the lower right of Constance and Flynn Battaglia and the contractor is actually inside the Golden Cup. We just finished this, and you want to say, what does 150 get you, right? Well, this building had collapsed in, I believe, because of the big blizzard in 2022. So the first floor, or the roof had collapsed, and then the floor had also collapsed. So what does 150 get you in this world right now? It'll get you the new roof, okay, and a floor. and a little bit of tuck pointing and brickwork, and a little bit of what did we do? We did a PVC pipe for drainage. So that's basically what that covers. Now, I mean, look, it's an incredible amount of money. It's wonderful to put our resources into this building. And when this is all said and done, Jefferson is going to have a local business on Jefferson they have the best coffee, the best chicken salad. I prefer the banana the banana pudding is my favorite, but it's just helping people, do the next step of their lives and then saving a building in the process, right? This is about people, this is about buildings, it's about community. So the stabilization program is well underway. We have multiple projects in that queue, including, but not limited to, I will say, the Emsley Street Church, the Old Sacred Heart, which is on Emsley. That's getting a full all brick all around it. We're working right now on that. That's getting ready to start hopefully in June. And we have the Juneteenth building. Juneteenth is getting masonry, asbestos removal, and don't quote me on all this because Constance knows every single detail, but it's masonry, asbestos removal, and the roofing that's going to get replaced. Like, it's a big deal. And so finally, in closing, just wanted to basically say that there are a lot of vacant buildings out there, both in Buffalo, in Niagara Falls, whether the east side or around Buffalo. But the tools that we're trying to create, this stabilization, right? The receivership, the housing court, all of these are really good tools. And I wanted to end with one thing that we're really working on right now that is not photo worthy, but is in the works, which is a revolving loan fund. So the revolving loan fund, we are hoping, things aren't super created just yet, we're like in the works, deeply in the works, creating a revolving loan fund that can be used for people in historic districts, or maybe not, depend. We have to work on those details. But my goal is to have a robust revolving loan fund that can fund renovation, restoration, stabilization projects across the city of Niagara Falls and Buffalo. And so our goal, we're working towards that. Of course, it takes money and resources and time, but we are actively working towards the inner workings of that. And I could talk forever, so I'm so sorry. But those are basically the tools, the new tools as we look forward with our new strategic plan.
Bernice, thank you very much. You've covered the waterfront, because there's a lot of waterfront in Buffalo, a lot of buildings. Folks, and I want to allow some time here for people to come in, so we're going to run over a little bit. So if you have questions, please submit them. We'll, as I say, go over and try to address as much as we can. It's important. I've held off having you until you got about a year into it, so you had your story to tell. Not the it takes a while. Here's my observation, for what it's worth, having been somewhat involved with the predecessor of PBN, the wonderful, venerable Landmark Society of the Niagara Frontier, that was part of the group that created PBN when they all merged. Strategically, everybody wants everything done, and there's limited capacity, resources to do anything. You can grow the organization, obviously, as people get interested in projects, and then be that organizing effort to organize a lot of other people to figure out where to get the money and how to do something. And that may be a role that I hear you playing, basically, as a leader of an organization. Strategically, I like what you're saying. East side, Niagara Falls, core of Niagara Falls. That does mean saying no to other things, but you can only do so much at this point and leave a mark. So that's the point. I think of Doug Jamel. He staked out downtown, basically, and has the resources and the firm and whatnot to focus on an area. So that would be my observation, to pick buildings that really you can see development happening, potentially inspired by your efforts at preservation and, to a degree, restoration. Does that make sense? Like the Broadway film? Broadway is obvious, and that's what I think you're doing. Is 4 or 5 at most that you can focus on and just put all your time, energy, and resources into those specific areas. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's really good. It is good feedback, actually, and it is something that we've, as of only recently, as I've been like, we need to kind of focus on some areas as well. Yeah, so Broadway, Fillmore, Jefferson, a lot of the stabilization is on Jefferson. I mean, one corner of Jefferson, we are doing 3 projects of 4. So, you know, we are really heavily there, and absolutely agree. And in Niagara Falls, you know, Niagara Falls, of course, the historic Main Street that's almost vacant is very important to us. We've got the Turtle downtown. We've got some fabulous board members from Niagara Falls, and we're trying to, you know, work with them to kind of create it. And it's difficult because it's not that there aren't people there that care, but they, you know, they haven't done a local landmark in, I don't even know, probably 6-7 years or longer. So they're just the preservation world is just it's just different. You know, here people always say Buffalo loves to tear things down, and that's a whole other conversation for another day. But we actually have a very supportive preservation. I mean, people like sport preservation here. We know that it's important. It's just the politics sometimes that get in the way.
Yep.
So,
all right. I will, let's see what we do. We have hopefully some questions from our audience. Melissa?
Yes, we have several. So let's get started.
Let's see.
Thank you for your dedication to preserving our built environment. As a longtime PBN docent, I have been both mystified and disappointed that there have been no tours scheduled for the Guarantee building. Do we still offer them?
They're only private, so they were made private before I started. We literally just talked about how to get the Guarantee back up and running. If you want to email me, I'd love to talk about it. So I could ask the stat team that's here, like they're all like nodding, like, yeah. So absolutely agree. There's a lot more that we could be doing with the Guarantee. And we are going to have it open for Explore Buffalo's Open Doors event. We're going to have it open there as well. So, but yeah, shoot me an email at bernice@pbnsafe.org, and I would love to talk. Appreciate that question.
The next question is from Deb. It's very useful to get an understanding of the work being done and how much effort / moves that must occur to help preserve buildings. Too often we hear the preservationists should have started to care about building XYZ earlier, when sometimes preservationists had done the work, like getting a local landmark designation 30 years ago.
Yes. Like the Great Northern is that is the
example she provided.
Yeah. And I just want to say out loud, we actually have almost all the historic preservation reports I found. So they're sitting here, like right here on a shelf from the 80s, the 90s. And one of my goals, and I'll just throw it out if anybody wants to help. One of my goals is to get these things online, because I'll tell you, in there was an article that showed about the local landmarks for the Great Northern in 1990. And I said, oh my gosh, you know, yeah, they say that we're you know, reactive, but we were so proactive on the Great Northern. And so I'm 1,000% behind you on that. And we are trying so hard. I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of buildings, and a lot of things to do. It's daunting sometimes.
Are there any new tours coming up besides the Richardson campus tours this summer? Any chance that the Alfred, New York tour will return?
That the what tour?
Alfred, New York.
It wasn't discussed, but I could, if you wanted to reach out, I'd be happy to. It's basically, we're doing a series of photography. Guarantee is on the list. And then we're doing hard hat tours. So I will say it out loud, even though it's not on the thing yet, but we're going to do one of like record theater and some kind of ones that haven't been in yet. And, but yeah, so shoot me an email on the Alfred, and that's one that hasn't come up. But again, like I said, it's sometimes in this transition, things are just, you know, I hate to say it. I don't want to say the word lost, because that's not the truth, but it's just something that I bring it to my attention. I'll see what we can do.
And the next question is from Barbara. How can we best help with systematic efforts to revive the Broadway, Fillmore, Central Terminal neighborhoods? How can revived buildings be set in viable neighborhoods? She notes, for example, the garbage dumping problems in the central terminal area, the build out and revival of the Adam Mikowitz, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, library and Torn Space Theater, and the proposed June collaborative tree planting efforts of Torn Space Theater and Buffalo Literary Center.
So how to do, so there's a few things to help in the Broadway Fillmore area. I serve also on the board of Eugene V. Debs Hall. So I right there helped restore the bar there that's doing a series of talks. In fact, tonight we have a Jane's talk on Calvert Box. Although I know this is being recorded, people will say, oh, I missed it, but we are doing a lot of, so we're doing things to activate. We're working heavily with the councilman on the trash what laws need to change. That is actually something that's very important. We actually are doing a historic tax credit training. So one of the things PBN did about 5 years ago was establish that the Broadway Fillmore neighborhood is a certified local historic district, which means that they get access some renovation money, through their, to do renovations and restoration work. So we are actually having an event at the end of May, May 29th at Debs Hall about it. So we're going to post information about that. And we need to do more of that, more education. There are a lot of efforts going on. We've got, there's Broadway Fillmore, NHS is doing a ton, the Central Terminal. There are a lot of efforts there. I think bringing them all together would be helpful. And we did that just a month or so ago. We brought almost everybody into the room to, have beers or non-alcoholic, whatever, and talk through what the dreams are of the community and the neighborhood and how it just shouldn't just be the terminal, but all around it. So, and then the Broadway Fillmore work, or the Broadway market work, I think is really exciting. And we don't have a direct, we're not really in all the conversations. That's a whole other group, but I think it's going to be really exciting. Hopefully that comes through. And so between the Broadway market and, and you've got the Central Terminal, you got Debs Hall and some of these old taverns that are doing their thing, and Mickey's, I think that we will, and all the homeowners in between and building owners accessing tax credits, a lot of that is actually happening. It's just going to take a while. And but I really encourage to get involved wherever you can. So Debs Hall, we have events there at Eugene V. Debs Hall, 483 Peckham. Mickey's has events. There's a tree. I know even just this week, there's a tree planting event for the Central Terminal, I think, coming up this weekend. Just more involved you can, the better. It literally takes a village. It literally takes a village. So.
Thank you. Dennis, those were the questions that we received.
Very good. Well, we're going to wrap this up, and I wish you well. This is, as they say, this is not an easy task, and it just takes, focus on the capacity. It would be my buildup and you did it well. People have questions, they're involved. Get them involved. And invite that. You're going to be only as strong as the amount of people that fall and buy into your vision and mission statement. So it's a new one, and promote it. Hopefully this recording can be used, by yourself to get the word out. But we wish you well here at Imagine Greater Buffalo, because your towns have found that it's their past, that when they preserve it, it's storytelling capability, and you really, especially if you're looking for outside tourists to come along with the locals to better understand the importance of the community they live in. That's what Imagine Life, place-based Imagine Lifelong Learning is all about. So these buildings have stories to tell. You've got the capability. One last point, you mentioned the Lewis Sullivan building, the Guarantee building. Work with me to develop a program in the fall. I'm thinking of Harry Meyer. He was the expert person, very much involved. And the reason I say that 2024 is the 100th anniversary of Lewis Sullivan's death. He died in 19. So I thought that would be a good program for the fall, and maybe we can do that together. How's that?
Sounds great. I appreciate it. That's exciting.
I'll also mention one of the most watched videos that we've done was the March program by Henry Swiatek of Swiatek Studios. It was about St. Casimir and other churches, and those can be focal points to rebuilding a community. is the restoration of that central large building of the house of worship, churches, sacred spaces. So I trust that'll be somewhat of a focus. I think you'll gather a lot of potentially interested people in helping you. And we can talk about that later as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there are people listening that want to, we definitely could use volunteers or assistance on researching, especially these churches, because the churches, they take a lot. There's a ton of history. There's a ton of history in these churches. And to do a local landmark or to do a determination of eligibility through, to see if they're eligible for historic tax credit, it opens the door for these churches. And we are not staffed enough to handle the churches that are here. I wish I could say we were. I wish that I could say that, but unfortunately, because they're not tax-paying entities, they sort of struggle in this space where they're just struggling. And so if we can provide, if there are people out there that want to help us do research, it would not go without, it would be so important. I'm sure we would love it. And so just a little shout out, because our church is really Casimir, St. Stan's. I could tell you so many of these buildings, everybody wants them to be saved. The people that go there, they want to be saved. They're just stuck, and they're in this really tough position. So I will return a call to Mr. Swiatek about St. Casimir, and I will, do what we will try to do what we can. It's just, we could have whole staffs on churches.
Well, what I'm thinking of is you get be the umbrella that holds people maybe trying to develop a separate Friends of St. Casimir's, something like that. Then you get it away from the church and you get it into the building, and the ability to maybe get other grants literally at a national level. And you could be that, so everybody doesn't have to run out and do their own 501c3. You could be that umbrella perhaps to help that along, but get them to do the work.
Yes, and there are sacred space funds out there, and you'd be surprised, there are actually even some foundations regionally, locally, that would support some of this. So it definitely doesn't hurt to reach out to us and see how we can work together. And absolutely agree.
And what's the best way to reach out? Either an email address, or what's the best way to contact you?
Yep. So preservationbuffaloniagara.org is our website, and you can email info@pbnsaves.org, pbnsaves.org, or Bernice@pbnsaves.org.
Plenty of ways to do it. Folks, get involved, and it does take a village.
Takes a village.
To save a village, let's put it that way.
Yeah, it sure does. To save and restore a building, it takes a village.
All right. Well, Bernice, thank you very much. Great presentation, and we've covered a lot of ground. Hope you can use this for your future efforts. And folks, thank you for joining us today. We hope you'll join us here next week. Juwaria Dahir is the Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus. Our good friend JD Hartman will be hosting that program and having a discussion tied in with the role of the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus as its own incubator for an East Side neighborhood in many ways. So join us then, and we'll see you on May 7th, when I'm pleased to say Mary Wilson and the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation will be receiving this year's Imagine Greater Buffalo Recognition Award. That's May 7th, 2 weeks. So see you then, and thank you again for joining us. Be well, and good day.